You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Zach Bechtold and Matt Franks. If you'd like to learn more about the Bearded Theologians, you can go online at beardedtheologians.com, where we have past podcasts, blogs, and a couple items for sale. So check us out, beardedtheologians.com. Thank you for listening, and enjoy this week's show.
Merry Christmas. And you're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold.
So this week on the podcast, as we were doing what we do best before we spend an hour trying to figure out what we're going to talk about if we really don't know what we're going to talk about. And we talked a little bit of everything from the MLB trade dispute of, actually getting their stuff together and actually having a season, which it looks like that may not happen. To solving world's problems, to even figuring out issues within our local churches. As we were kicking around ideas, this idea came up that we talk about our favorite scripture that we like to use during Christmas Eve services. This is recorded before Christmas Eve. And, Zach, as you think about your Christmas Eve service and your Christmas Eve worship experience, what is your favorite scripture to utilize?
Yeah, mine's I always, regardless of what the lectionary is or what scriptures we use in a given season, I always include Luke chapter 2 there in Jesus's birth. It's 1 through 7 or so, but my favorite part of that is really 6 through 7, or 6 and 7. While they were there, the time came for Mary to have her baby. She gave birth to her firstborn child, a son, wrapped him snugly, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the guest room. And that's out of the Common English Bible translation. And I love that. I love that imagery that wrapped him snugly brings to mind. And it always hits deep down for me, and just the reality and the gravity of a baby being born in this way, and reminds me of my own kiddos when we would swaddle them and wrap them snugly so they didn't get cold and so they were comfortable. And for me, that's a super tangible, just real moment of, this is a baby, and it's gentle and delicate, and yet what this baby brings to the world, wrapped snugly there in the cloth, is huge. And I just love that. I love that imagery it brings. I love the play on it, and I love the humanity that it brings to Jesus in those moments.
I think
okay.
Well, I think for me, and I guess it's because of the nature of our service and the nature of light, how we use light in the service, is John 1. And what really gets me is verse 5. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness doesn't extinguish the light. And I always think about Silent Night, and no matter where I've been, no matter what congregation I've been in, what's really beautiful is just seeing the light swell in the congregation when we do the lighting and the candles at Silent Night time. Nothing more powerful than that. And it really brings in, I'm going to use a big theological word here, the incarnation of Christ in that moment just swells. And that becomes real to me. And no matter what, it just always seems to hit me in such a spot that, like, it's like, wow, I just can't believe this. And you get that sense of hope that's anticipated, that the real reason for this. And it just, I don't know, it just blows me away every year. And even when I read that scripture, because it's the way we start our service of light, it just, every time it just hits me. And it's just like, wow, this is just amazing. And I just feel a little bit awestruck, a little bit just beside myself in that moment of thinking about, you talked about having a baby, but I think about the incarnation of how that, just all that went into that and what that means. And I definitely have a big, deep theological moment in that whole space.
Right. Well, and that's what Christmas Eve is, right? It's the telling of this story And I often argue that we as preachers don't really need to preach a whole lot on Christmas Eve, because the story's there. We have these moments throughout the entirety of the service that bring that light to life, right? That you see that swelling of hope come to reality. And it's through these what I would argue are super tangible moments in Scripture, whether it's the physical nature of a baby needing to be wrapped snugly, or the light literally and physically coming into the world, right? And swelling through the sanctuary, and swelling through our hearts, and swelling up through all of this. That's what Christmas Eve is. That's what these services are, is this embodiment of the hope born, the hope coming to life. And I mean, I don't guess I'd be a pastor if I didn't love these services anyways, but there's something to them that, even in the midst of planning, in the midst of making sure everything goes okay, that we have a meaningful service, these moments hit home in their own little ways. We lead our congregations through them, right? Which I think is something very, very beautiful, not only in this story, but in the just the human nature of what these services are.
Well, and I think that that's why, the service itself, however you all do it, I mean, everybody does it differently. There's not one way to do this service, but I think you're right in the sense of preaching. It doesn't have to be preached. That doesn't mean you can't offer a word of hope. It doesn't mean
no, exactly, right? Yeah.
But I also think that, and that's one of the reasons why I love the way I structure the service, is that I let the service speak for itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I usually, what ends up happening is I'll sit there just for a few seconds of silence and just like, this is it.
Yeah, take it in.
Is the way it's to be.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where we find ourselves, as trying to do too much as preachers, as pastors, because it is the 2 times a year, Christmas and Easter, right, that we have the most people, that we have visitors, that we have, people that's the only time they go to church. And so to make an impression, or make it, man, the stories tell themselves, right? And if we'll get out of the way, that hope is there.
Yeah, and I think that that's the powerful thing that we tend to forget. As preachers, we bear so much burden of trying to make it an amazing experience. And I'm not saying don't, do as much as you can, but work with what you got.
Yep.
And that's okay. I mean, I'm having to do that today. I'm having to rethink, this is the first in-person live Christmas service that we'll do in 2 years. And I'm having to rethink lighting and things like that, and take that seriously. And so, make it a special space, create a space of peace, love, hope, and joy. Like, that's necessary. And then just be present. And I think that that's where, when we just open ourselves up to that, it just changes us, and it changes the whole experience. And I think that that's where we work too hard at that, but we also can just be like, this is it, and it's okay.
Well, that's why I wanted to talk about, what gives us life in the Scriptures this season. One, because we use a ton of them. This is one of the only services we read 7, 8, 9 Scriptures in a service, right? But when we let those live and breathe, they create that space to do that very thing, to be just in the moment. And I think there's something really significant about that, especially during this season.
I agree. I think too that just the space we create makes a difference, and just the attitude that we bring, and please, when you have people that are visiting either for the first time or it's the only time of year, just say, hey, we're glad to see you. That's all you need to say. Don't say it's been a long time. Just acknowledge their presence and see them as a child of God for who they are, and let it be that. And because I think that it does more harm when we say, hey, it's been a long time. For some people, the reason why it's been a long time is a good reason. It's not a bad reason. And for some, this is maybe their first experience ever, or it may be just their first time back in public, or just whatever. And I think even with the rise of Omicron, we have to be mindful of that, and then it may not be what we think it may be, which I have to be honest with you, as someone we're trying to plan our services stuff and get all of our small logistical items out. It's a little bit hard to plan because you don't know who's coming. Because let's be real, nobody really RSVPs, and we don't even do that. But if we did, I know nobody would. And so, it's it will be okay. And I'm saying that more. I think I'm saying that more for myself, but I think everybody else needs to hear that too.
Right.
You're gonna do a great experience for people to experience the birth of Jesus, and the story tells itself. Let the light come in from the dark world that we are around.
Right. Well, and it's the difference in, we spent all of Advent waiting and anticipating and preparing. And if we allow ourselves to be let down because it doesn't live up to what we think it's going to be, we're birthing a baby, right? Which was not something that people thought it was going to be. It's the whole Christmas story. And so welcome the folks who join you, celebrate them that are there, whether they're in person, online, or watch you 2 weeks later, it doesn't matter. Celebrate that because they're getting to hear this story. They're getting to be present with you in these moments. And that's beautiful. And let's let our expectation be different this year.
Well, and I think that's where, if you ask me, I think we've forgotten the service itself. I think we've put too much on everything else that we forget that the story really does do the work for us if we let it.
Yep.
And I think that hit me a couple of years ago, just to let that story just resonate. And that's kind of the way I start my sermon, is just, asking everybody, just take this in, enjoy it for what it is. And, and remember that God came to be with us. And I love Eugene Peterson's interpretation of John 1. And so, he says, the word came in and made its home among us. And I just love that. And so, yeah, that's just something that just resonates with me.
Yep. No, I love it. I hope all of you who are listening have a Merry Christmas wherever you are, wherever you need to be this season. Be there, be present, even if it doesn't live up to what you were hopeful for, what the expectations may be. We're still living in a different world than we were a couple of years ago. So hang in there, celebrate the best you can, and be present in the hope that is before us.
And I want to share too that, like, you can still order something now and it will come by Epiphany through Zazzle through our website. We don't really make any money off of it, but it'd be a good Epiphany gift. But we want to encourage you, if you like listening to us, please, whatever you listen on, thumbs up, all the stars, write reviews of us, share us to your friends. That helps us get our word out a little bit more and let people connect with us a little bit more. We're really excited about next year. I say that every year, but we really are. I mean, it'll be year 6. We'll be starting year 6 here soon. It's hard to believe that here we are and you're getting ready to kick off year 6. And it's just been a fun ride, and we've enjoyed all the content. And please just go back. If you have a long drive or a long flight, go back and listen to some of our old podcasts. I think you'll find some really good fruit there. And just please don't forget to like us and share us and subscribe to us on all the platforms that you listen to, because that helps us. And so for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Have a Merry Christmas.
First, guys, I want you to subscribe and like this video and push that thumbs up.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all social media outlets. You can check out old episodes and more information at beardedtheologians.com. Thanks for checking us out.